You're listening to Shoot the Hostage. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Dan.
We're a movie-obsessed couple that delves into a different film each week based around a theme.
This season the theme is aliens, and we're covering 8 extraterrestrial-themed movies.
Shoot the Hostage contains explicit language and mature content, as well as major spoilers for the chosen film. We really hope you enjoy listening and stick around. Should we start talking about Mars attacks?
No, I'm enjoying doing this.
I feel like an hour of that would get old for everybody involved. But you're committed to the bit.
I did have the idea of doing a full hour of us going,
no.
And you laughed.
Vetoed.
I might take that sample from the beginning of us going, and putting it on loop for an hour.
No.
And releasing that like an hour before the actual show goes out as a prank. Do you like pranks?
No, if we were releasing this show on April the 1st, maybe.
Yeah.
That shit will not fly.
But it's not. It's coming out on November. So, yeah. So what film are we talking about?
Oh, I wonder. What could it be?
Well, you've seen the title. You fucking know what it is. Oh, guess what we're talking about today? We're talking about Mars attacks. Oh, really? Because you put that in a fucking description.
Uh-oh.
Cynical start.
We've got Sassy Dan.
Right. So, a 90s movie.
We've done plenty of 90s movies so far.
I was about to say we haven't done many 90s movies. Then I remembered immediately that we did Con Air, Hard Boiled.
Yep. Some other stuff.
And other things.
Miscellany.
Yeah, so 1996, I was the young old age of 12 years old when this was released.
I would have been 14.
Oh, okay. Did you see this at the pictures?
Do you know what? I was trying to remember. I don't think I did, no. I did definitely rent it on VHS, and then I went on to buy it on DVD, but it was one of those really early shit DVDs that had like the cardboard slipcase.
Oh, funny. Okay. It's funny because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was an American person, but they used to live in the UK. And they were talking about those card cases, and they went, we didn't get those in the UK when I was there. And I'm thinking, we fucking did.
Yeah, we did.
I'm looking at some now. But you didn't know that you owned this movie.
No, I'd forgotten.
Because we were looking for it on streaming, and I thought we found it because a few weeks ago we sort of looked ahead at the lineup, and we thought, we can watch this on Prime and this on Netflix and so on and so forth. And we went onto Prime, I think, to watch this, and it wasn't there, so we panicked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sure I've seen this somewhere. So I went through your wallet of 1,000 movies, and I found it. So you do own it.
All I can say to that is perhaps you'll have to make me a spreadsheet one day so I don't forget which films I own.
It did cross my mind.
Yeah, I bet it did.
I thought you was going to say, all I have to say to that is...
That's just going to be my fallback for everything. If I don't have an answer, it's just going to be that.
I might just cut that in when you said that. So 1996, can you name the other big alien invasion movie that came out in that very year?
In 96?
Yeah.
Was Independence Day 96? Then Independence Day. That's my answer.
Yes. Apparently, Roland Emmerich was desperate to get that out before Mars Attacks.
Because the films have so much in common.
Because they're exactly the same movie.
Yeah.
Well, they're an alien invasion movie, but wildly different in execution and tone.
Every other way.
Yeah. Also released in 1996. You know, sometimes we sort of go through the year that a movie was released and we talk about other movies. I'm not necessarily going to talk about every other movie, but it is one of them that seems unusually good.
Oh, 96, it was a strong year, yeah.
I've got Scream.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. A game changer for horror.
Absolutely.
Space Truckers. My second favourite Dennis Hopper movie.
Jesus Christ.
Train Spotting.
Oh, wow, yeah.
The Witches one.
The Craft.
The Craft, yes.
Why did I think that was 95?
I don't know.
Continue.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Wow, yeah.
Twister.
I can take or leave that.
Oh, it's a fun movie, I think. The Rock.
You love that movie, don't you?
I do love that movie because it's
Yeah.
a good one.
I'm amazed we've never watched that together.
No, I watch it a fair amount, but it's been at least a year, I would say. So it's probably due a rewatch.
So I've got
soon.
that to look forward to, is what you're saying.
Yes. I don't know what. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. I think. I wonder how we could get that on a theme.
No.
Nicolas
Let's talk
Cage.
about. We're talking about aliens.
Yeah. Okay. Right. The Frighteners came out in '96, which
Awesome,
is
yeah.
probably my favourite Peter Jackson.
Is it really? That's controversial.
I think. What else did he do? King Kong.
Brain Dead.
Brain Dead. I don't care for that a great deal.
This is where we differ. That's easily my favourite Peter Jackson movie.
All right. Well, I think he's probably done a lot that I haven't seen, but
he did some really little seen underrated films about like elves and
Brett,
small people.
Tiptoes, whatever was that movie?
They were based on a series of books. I'm sure it'll come to me.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about. We'll have to look that up.
I can't tell if you're being serious or sarcastic. I can't tell if you're being serious or sarcastic, generally.
Yes.
That clears things up then, thank you.
Oh, yeah, Jerry Maguire, Fargo.
Okay.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
The best Baz Luhrmann film. Actually, it's the only one I can stomach to watch, to be honest with you.
Not a fan of Moulin Rouge? Moulin?
No, I have seen that one and did not like it.
No, me either.
Swingers. Star Trek First Contact. Mission Impossible, numero uno. The Island of Dr. Moreau, which we have to cover at some point.
Yes, for sure. I'm scheming on a metamorphosis theme, so maybe we could shoehorn it in there.
Okay, yeah. Listen, there's plenty to talk about with that movie. Biodome.
Free mahi mahi.
Yes. Exactly. And I don't think I've thought about Biodome until we met, and then I feel like you bring it up every other week. We watched that.
That or some other Pauly Shore movie, probably.
In the Army Now.
Oh, yeah. Was Laurie Petty in that?
I don't know.
I've definitely seen it. Son-in-Law. Are we just naming more Pauly Shore
Son-in-law.
movies?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think We Hate Movies covered that a while back.
Yeah, I bet they did.
I haven't seen it, but I listened to their episode and it was very funny. One more for you. That classic Francis Ford Coppola movie, Jack.
Christ, why do I always forget that that's from Coppola?
I know.
That's insane.
I know. And I saw that at the pictures too.
The 90s were a strange time, weren't they?
They were a very strange time, yeah. And a strange movie. And I didn't realise at the time, I don't think I really understood who Francis Ford Coppola was at the time when I saw it. But I did see that at cinema. And it wasn't until about 5-10 years ago, I looked it up and I thought, Francis Ford Coppola, mate.
Has someone made a grave mistake?
Yeah. What's that about?
I can't imagine any circumstance in which he would be introduced to anybody as director of Jack, Francis Ford Coppola.
I would.
You would.
In whatever alternative reality, if we ever interviewed him, the first question I would ask him is, you made Jack? Yes. Why?
Yeah. Explain yourself, sir.
Yes. So this one, Mars Attacks, it was based on a collection of trading cards which were released in 1962.
Yeah, which I didn't know until we started researching for this.
Did you not?
No, even though like it says it in the opening credits.
That's your first clue, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a War of the Worlds style narrative, but it was deemed too graphic and was pulled from the shelves after just a couple of months.
Well, the trading cards themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is nuts. I mean, they're cards. I guess it wouldn't happen today. And I haven't specifically gone to look up any cards, but I think the movie adaptation is pretty. What's the word? It's
accurate.
I can't think of it.
It was right there.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the cards are the film is a good representation of what the cards were from what I hear.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem particularly graphic or anything. It's just like a cartoon. So that's curious.
You say that, but a lot was cut. The film was looking at an NC-17, if not R rating,
Really?
and they had to chop a bunch of stuff out. I don't know if it was, I couldn't find much evidence of whether that was scenes that they'd filmed that hit the cutting room floor, or whether they just were deemed not appropriate to film.
Okay.
But yeah, the original intention was to have it be a lot bloodier, I think.
Right. Okay. Well, that would kind of fit in with the kind of style of it. It's quite nihilistic and stuff, but I think it ended up being a bit of a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which I didn't hate, and we'll get to that. So I did Google Topps Company, but I didn't expect what I found. So I found out that there's another property that was based on Topps trading cards.
Is it Garbage Pail Kids?
Is the
Yeah.
All roads lead to Garbage Pail Kids, apparently.
In this house they do.
It comes up so often, and I don't know why. It's horrible. It's an awful movie. And I've seen it because of you.
And you're still here.
So it was when I decided to make this movie, it was writer Jonathan Gems did submit a first draft back in 1994, and it was budgeted at about $200 million.
Holy shit.
In 94.
That's crazy. I read that the actual budget was around 70 million, which, considering the cast, I mean, we'll get to it, that the cast is beyond stacked in this movie.
Yes.
It's unreal.
It's insane. I do a thing where I write down the cast members in my notes.
Yeah.
And I spent all of last week doing that. So, but
that
yeah,
took the entire duration of the film itself.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the movie. I was just writing down the cast. So 200 million budget, but Warner Brothers wanted to get rewrites done, and they wanted the budget to be about 60 million. As you said, it ended up being between 75 and 100. I've read different reports on that.
Okay.
I don't know what includes marketing or doesn't and all of that nonsense, but somewhere between 75 and 100 million, I think, was the final number.
I mean, I know we're talking almost 30 years ago, but that still seems relatively modest considering the cast involved.
Considering the cast, considering it's a huge...
The scale of it
it's
was
an epic,
quite impressive.
Yes, the scale, that's the term I'm looking for. And a huge amount of CGI and visual effects. So yeah, it seems fairly economical. But then again, not many films were costing 100 million back then. Some were.
Yeah.
But I think we're just sort of edging up to that at that point. So this was made by Tim Burton, one Timothy Burton.
Yes.
Who is not my favourite filmmaker. I think between Mars Attacks and Beetlejuice, they're pretty much the only two Tim Burton movies that I will watch and rewatch.
I feel pretty similarly. Unlike you, I do have very fond memories of his iteration of Batman, and also I've got kind of a soft spot for Edward Scissorhands, but I can't remember the last time I revisited that, and I've not got much time for Johnny Depp these days, so...
No? Why is that?
No reason.
Let's not get into that.
No.
So Edward Scissorhands, yeah, I remember seeing it back in the day when it was on Sky Movies or whatever, but I think even at the time I was like, oh, this is a bit dreary and fantastical for my liking.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons I do still have time for it, though, because I'm a huge fan of like fairy tale stuff and like magical realism, so
yeah, those
elements are right up my street.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And he's cultivated a really distinct style.
Yes.
I'll give him that. But a lot of what he does is just not for me. His version of Alice in Wonderland was an absolute abomination, and I will die on that hill.
I think that's I think loads of people share that sentiment, don't they? I think so. I think it's pretty well majorly panned by a lot of people. I think I saw it and I think I immediately forgot it. There's someone with a big hat, I think. Or am I thinking of the Cat in the Hat? Might be the
Mad Hatter you're thinking of.
Yeah. Is that the Johnny Depp character?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, of course, right. So, so Mr. Burton, he actually did start his career as an animator in the 80s. And a concept artist. He did concept art for The Fox and the Hound, Tron, and A Black Cauldron, but none of the concepts made it into the movies.
Okay.
And then he made a short film in 1984 called Frankenweenie.
Yes, I remember that.
Was that made into a full-length thing?
It was eventually, yeah.
Was it about a dog?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen it, and I don't think I'd heard of it until doing research for this. So that was viewed by someone called Paul Rubens. I think he saw it in the cinema.
The less said about that, the better, eh?
I don't think I need to complete that joke, do I?
No, he's barely cold. Let's leave him alone.
What do you mean?
Paul Rubens
Yeah.
died recently.
Oh, no. Was it a stake through the heart? Sorry, too soon. So Paul Rubens saw it and wanted Burton to direct the Pee Wee Herman movie, which he did. And then he's off to the races, and then we're getting Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, as you mentioned, Batman. And as much as I don't enjoy that 89 Batman or the sequel, they were kind of game changers for cinema in general, and obviously superhero movies.
Yeah.
So I do respect them. And every now and again, I think, I'm going to put that on and just give it another go. But I'm always like, no, I can't. I don't like this. I just don't like it. What else did he do? Oh, Edward, I've got Sleepy Hollow. Oh, Planet of the Apes. That was a bad one, wasn't it?
I remember when Planet of the Apes came out. I mean, his first mistake was casting Mark Wahlberg. His second mistake was remaking it in the first place. I distinctly remember because I was such a huge fan of Kevin Smith back then. And they had a massive feud because Kevin Smith kind of very vocally went on record to say how terrible he thought Planet of the Apes was, and that Tim Burton was perhaps a bit of a hack. And they just hate each other.
Really?
Well, as far as I'm aware, to this day, they have a strong dislike of one another.
Well, I'm Team Kev Smith.
Yeah, he was not wrong.
I'm sorry. But yeah, no, and as you said earlier, like, I respect his vision. He's got a style and people enjoy that style, and that's great. It's just not really for me.
Yeah.
But he definitely has a style, and you can't deny that.
I think as far as the man himself goes, I don't know a great deal about him. I find him to be a little bit pretentious from the little that I do know. And I haven't done a great deal of digging on the subject. And it's perhaps something I should do. But I know that in recent years, he's been accused of racism.
Okay.
In kind of tied to the fact that he never really ever casts minorities. His films are all very Aryan, and he made some pretty off-color comments about that. About
okay.
The fact
when he was challenged about it?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And obviously context is important. I didn't sit down and listen to the entire interview.
Yeah.
I only saw that snippet, but it was not a good look, shall we say.
Okay. I had heard this too. Again, I don't know much about it. I haven't heard any interviews or any comments on it, so I can't really have much of an opinion on it. But when I think it was highlighted, I did think all of these characters are not just white, they're like pale.
Yeah.
So it's,
alabaster white.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Well, interestingly, Mars Attacks is one of the few exceptions.
Right.
Because as we'll talk about later, when we get to the cast, we do have the great Pam Grier.
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah.
We do. Okay, so mentioned already, written by Jonathan Gems. I suppose, should we spend the rest of the hour talking or just listening to the cast? We've got Jack Nicholson.
Take a deep breath. Limber up.
All right, okay, I'm going to do this. Jack Nicholson, Jim Brown, Glenn Close, Piers Brosnan, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker, Pam Grier, Sylvia Sidney, Danny DeVito, Lucas Haas, Annette Bening, Rod Steiger, Lisa Marie, Jack Black, Natalie Portman, Christina Applegate, Tom Jones, and I'm sure there's more.
Your lung capacity's pretty impressive.
It's not too bad, yeah. So, Jack Nicholson, we spoke about Batman briefly and obviously reteaming with Burton for this, so they must get on pretty well. He played two roles in this, President Dale and Art Land, which was a weird choice.
Yeah, I tried to find some information about that, but I couldn't find a great deal. It was supposed to be two different actors, and I believe at one point, funnily enough, you just mentioned Batman again, I believe that one of them was supposed to be Michael Keaton.
Right.
But that didn't pan out. I think some other people were considered as well. But yeah, he ended up doing both roles. I don't know. I think when I first watched this, I had assumed there must have been a reason for that.
I think the reason is that Nicholson wanted to get paid twice.
Well, yeah, I mean, so logistically, yes. But I mean, I felt like I thought it must have been important to the story. I remember watching it and just being like, well, it's the same person. Is nobody going to comment on this? Is this not relevant? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a weird choice, and I didn't really care for it too much. I enjoyed him as the president character. I thought, yeah, great. But the other one could quite easily have not been in the movie, and it wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah.
And I didn't think his scenes were particularly funny
or memorable, really.
Yeah.
Also, he can't say extraterrestrial. I don't know if you clocked that.
No.
Right near the start, the president says extraterrestrial.
Okay. No, I didn't clock that, actually. That's a joke that passed me by. Lucas Haas, do you know what? Like, I'm surprised that he made this movie because I thought he was in the Witness Protection Program.
I knew this was going to be a joke about being the Amish boy in Witness. I knew it.
You did not.
Yes, I did.
You don't know me.
I thought it was quite funny that his character worked in a donut shop. Right. He must have the willpower of a saint to work around that many donuts and still be that thin.
Yeah.
I could not relate.
Maybe he's diabetic or something. Do you think that he was, he started being in that club that he...
Oh, God, you're not going to say it, are you? You're going to make me listen to you say that again?
No.
You're going to have to now for the people at home.
Are they called the Pussy Patrol?
I think it's the Pussy Posse, isn't
Pussy
it?
Posse.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Leo DiCaprio will burn in hell for crimes against women.
Oh,
awful.
Lord. Yes, that's a term. When I heard that, I thought, no, that's made up, isn't it?
It's real. And apparently, Toby fucking Maguire is a part of it.
Yeah, Toby Maguire, Lucas Haas, and Leonardo DiCaprio.
No. I want no part of this.
It's weird.
It's awful.
It's weird, yeah. Who else do we want to talk about? Danny DeVito, always nice to see Frank in things.
The Trash Man.
Yeah.
He had 1.5 minutes of screen time.
Did he really?
Despite being one of the top billed. And his character didn't even have a name.
Rude Gambler.
Yeah.
He was credited as. Yeah, that's funny because you're right, like he was barely on screen, but he's one of the things that I remember most about this film. And I think it's just because it's Danny DeVito.
Because it's him, yeah.
Yeah. You just know, as soon as you see him in costume, you know who Danny DeVito is.
Yes.
It's glorious.
But he's worked with Burton a few times as well, hasn't he?
Well,
a regular.
Returns, yeah.
I think he was in that ill-advised Dumbo live-action remake that he did.
Oh, yeah. Never saw that.
No, me either. No interest.
No. Sarah Jessica Parker, Michael J. Fox, Martin Short.
Michael J. Fox, this was one of the last films he did before he took that long break from acting after his Parkinson's diagnosis.
So I think he would have been doing Spin City at this time. So
yeah.
he did have regular work on that sitcom, which ran for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of his movie career, he definitely stopped doing things around about this time. Obviously, The Frighteners, which we mentioned at the beginning of the show, was also out, which is incredible.
But yeah, apparently there are a couple scenes in this where you can see him shaking.
Right.
Like he was struggling to control the tremors at that point, but they wrote it in because the scene where he's on top of the van or whatever it is with the TV crew, and they just they went with it because, you know, shaking in fright would have been pretty realistic.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And like, why not just have characters with Parkinson's in movies? Why can't
absolutely.
Do that?
And Michael J. Fox seems fucking awesome, man.
He does. He's great. I read his book a while ago, and I think he's written a couple. But yeah, that was really good. We watched that documentary all about him, and he seems great.
Yeah, and I know it's really easy to sort of sound pitying or infantilizing when you talk about people with disabilities, but he is a genuine inspiration.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I totally agree. And Back to the Future weren't too bad either. So.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. Rod Steiger is in this movie.
He is.
Is he a singer?
Rod Steiger?
Yeah.
Are you confusing him with Rod Stewart?
Oh, yeah.
Rod Steiger's the general.
Yeah. Is he not a singer then?
He's not a singer, no. He was the priest in one of my favourite movies, The Amityville Horror.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to make you rewatch that at some point. We haven't watched that together.
Ryan Reynolds in
No, not the remake.
Oh, was that a remake?
Yeah.
Oh.
You think the remake of Amityville Horror is one of my favourite films?
I don't know. You have some strange choices sometimes.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, case closed. Did you notice Christina Applegate in this?
Yeah, she was Jack Black's missus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She was just like a blink and you'll miss it thing, wasn't it?
She was only in a couple scenes, really.
Oh, you see, I only noticed one scene.
I think she was in the trailer at one point.
That's the
after
one I noticed.
Right. She was the one who was kissing him as he was leaving to go to the military.
Yes. You know, Christina Applegate, Jack Black, seems like a good match.
Realistic.
Nothing wrong there.
Yeah. I don't know, though. Women do love a good sense of humour.
Yeah.
Jack Black's a very funny dude. Yeah.
Okay.
He seems cool as well.
Does he?
Yeah. I've listened to a few podcasts he's been on. He's got good taste in music.
Yeah. No, he seems fun. So, are we done with the cast? Is there anything specific you want to go into?
No, I'm happy to move on.
Humans that are in this?
I always forget that Pierce Brosnan's in it.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah, James Bond. They was doing James Bond at the time. It's not like he had stopped doing James Bond or was about to do a James Bond. He was James Bond then. He'd already done a James Bond in 95 with GoldenEye, and then I think Tomorrow Never Dies came out in 97, so it was in between Bonds.
You've said James Bond too many times.
I know.
It doesn't sound right anymore.
I know. So, with that in mind, have you got a favourite character performance, or what? Is there anything in it? Is there anyone that you would have dropped, or you want to see more of? Because I've got some thoughts on this in particular. It was such a huge cast. I think you can't not have a take.
Well, I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about it, because I did read that there was initially supposed to be 60 major characters.
What?
Yeah, that was my reaction.
Hence the 200 million budget.
I mean, it would have needed to be like 17 hours long to give screen time to that many characters, but they whittled it down to about 23.
Oh, showing restraint then.
Yeah. So who would you have dropped? Also, can we just touch on the fact that you haven't dedicated much time to Martin Short yet at all?
We're getting there.
Here we go.
You see, this is one of those questions where I'm leading somewhere. What's it called? Leading question. So I would have had more Martin Short in there because he's the best and he's the greatest Canadian whatever has lived and whatever will live, and he's amazing and funny, and he's not in this enough, not nearly enough.
I mean, he with 23 major characters, he couldn't have been.
Which is my problem with this movie. There's way too many characters.
All right then. To throw your question back at you, who would you have dropped in order to give Martin Short the deserved screen time? I
would have dropped the second Jack Nicholson character because it has no bearing or relevance and isn't really that funny either, in my opinion.
Agreed. I liked Annette Bening quite a lot, the weird hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I really liked her character. She was pretty fun.
She was a fun character. Yeah, true. Let's keep her. Let's drop.
But we could, I was just about to say, like, we could have had her character without her attachment to the second Nicholson character.
Agreed. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, he's gone.
So so we're dropping Outland.
Yep.
We are also going to drop Tom Jones because Tom Jones is in this movie, I have no idea, except for the fact that it's in Vegas a bit. So you've got to do what he's doing. His dancing did make me laugh.
Honestly, I died a little bit inside.
Yeah.
Women found him attractive back in the day.
I don't understand. I definitely would have dropped Tom Jones.
Drop kicked.
Who else would I have dropped? Do you know what? As much as I like Michael J. Fox and I enjoy seeing him in it, whenever I watch this movie, I sort of rub my hands. Oh yeah, great, Michael J. Fox is in this. But then it's so brief that maybe I just would have just not had that character in it, or put him in it more. I don't know, but I would have gotten rid of. I was going to say Lucas Haas, but you can't really because he's the main reason.
Him and the grandma are pretty important.
Yeah. Maybe the Jack Black stuff I would have dropped.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just put more Martin Short in it. I think he was probably I know I'm biased, but I think he was my favourite. I feel like he knew exactly what movie he was in. He does his Martin Short thing. He's not as Martin Short as he normally is. He's not falling over in this movie, which is a shame.
That's true. I don't love his character because he's a bit slimy.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not really, he's never that character. He's never, he's always just a bit silly and feckless and
quite wholesome.
Yeah, he's usually quite wholesome, and he's not in this. And it was fun to see, but he's still an idiot. But he's the press secretary. As I said, he's an idiot.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, so cast-wise, it's just too many people, I think, for me in this. It's a lot of them are disconnected. They're not really, don't play a huge role in terms of the plot. So I would have dropped a lot of the peripheral characters, I think, and maybe just kept it central to the presidential team and just lean into the satire of it a bit more, I think, for me, rather than have these side characters that don't really have any bearing on the plot or things happening in it.
It's weird because it's unbelievably pacey.
You stick it on and then it's finished. And
Yeah.
there's so much going on. And I do find this very funny. I enjoy the aliens. I enjoy that the humans just fall for their apologies every single time. I like that.
Fool me once.
Yeah. Oh, no, you got me thinking about the George Bush quote. Now watch this drive. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, satire is... You can't do satire
You can't.
anymore,
It doesn't go far enough anymore.
Yeah, so I enjoy putting this on. It's a very breezy film. It goes by like that, and I enjoy it. And I like seeing all of these scenes happening, and the characters are a bit silly and funny. Like I said, I wish it had lent more into the satire side of things, but I do enjoy that they fall for their tricks every time.
Yeah.
And right from the beginning, when they first meet the aliens, when they have the red carpet out, and the bloke from Terminator is there as the general, and not Lance Henriksen. And they meet the aliens, and then they release a dove, and then that's when they start ray gunning everybody.
Yeah, they take grave offence at the dove.
Yeah. And then their ray guns turn people into skeletons. Did you notice that some are red and some are green?
I did. Yes, based on the ray that was used.
Right, yes. And that's because they wanted this to be a Christmas movie, apparently, I've heard.
Interesting. I did read a bit about that as well, and apparently... I haven't gone back to check. I haven't watched Beetlejuice in quite some time. But apparently there are red and green skeletons in that.
I've watched that within the last year, and I don't remember that.
I think the impression I get is that it's kind of like a blink and you'll miss it thing.
Right.
So I feel like that's perhaps a Tim Burton Easter egg that we just don't know about.
Maybe. Do you think it's in Planet of the Apes?
But it's entirely possible. I'm never going to rewatch that film to find out, though.
No. I don't think I've seen it all the way through, I've seen some of it. I'm aware of the ending anyway. So I think for me, just one of the strongest parts of this movie is the fact that it is a throwback. It looks weird, but in a good way. And I think...
How do you mean when you say it looks weird? Because I've got some thoughts about this.
Well, it looks... I think I watched this now, and it hasn't dated for me in terms of the effects. And I think...
Same.
I think that's because it's meant to be... it's meant to look like a throwback. The effects are meant to look a little bit shonky in places. But all of the alien stuff, I think, looks just amazing. For 1996, I think it's incredible. The only thing is when they're interacting with humans, and you can sort of see that they're not really there. But considering this movie's nearly 30 years old, I think it looks amazing. Yeah.
Interestingly, I think Tim Burton originally wanted them to be stop motion because he was a big fan of Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
Who was the
master.
fucking man.
Yep.
Love me some Jason and the Argonauts. But yeah, he first, he was going to work with Henry Selick, who directed Nightmare Before Christmas, obviously.
Is that? I thought Tim Burton directed that.
I believe Tim Burton produced it. I think it's like a Tim Burton Presents. A lot of people mistakenly think that he directed Nightmare Before Christmas.
I think I'm from the universe originally.
This is a Mandela effect.
I don't know if it's that, but I think maybe I've shifted into a different reality where he didn't direct that.
So the Mandela effect. But yeah, they originally worked with a different team of animators, apparently, but the studio refused to foot the bill for all of the projected costs.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got ILM in to do all the visual stuff. Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
I mean, it's 1996. Who else?
Industrial Light and Magic.
Yep.
They definitely wanted it to sort of intentionally look a bit shitty.
Yes. And that's why I think it's aged very well, because it looked amazing, but a little bit shitty then. And it looks amazing now, but a little bit shitty now. But it's part of it. It's like part of the pastiche. And it's pointing back to the movies of the 50s and going, look, they looked a bit silly, didn't they? But we all loved them. And it's a nice homage. And I think that's why it holds up. It's such a style. And I find that with movies, like if there's a movie about the future and it's got too much of a vision of the future and it ages very quickly. Whereas if you've got a very specific weird vision, it can't really age, or like an anachronistic kind of story like this in many ways. Because I don't think they mention a time period when this is meant to be happening, but there is a very wide mixture of technologies and stuff in this.
Yes, it's really interesting. It's kind of, so the closest comparison that I can think of is something like It Follows, where they intentionally muddy the waters with tech that doesn't exist and clothing that's super retro. And they've definitely done the same thing here, because it is supposed to be set in the 90s, but a lot of the military stuff looks straight out of the 50s. Like Glenn Close particularly is dressed kind of head to toe in 60s kind of gear, like bit Jackie O. And then you've got Annette Bening, who looks kind of 70s.
Yeah.
It's all over the shop. And like you say, very anachronistic, but it works brilliantly.
Yeah. And the television sets and the weird Martian translator thing that they've got feels very sort of 50s.
They figured out in no time flat. Where were they in Arrival? Denis Villeneuve could have used that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess it wasn't accurate, was it? Were we meant to think that...
Well, they did not come in peace, so...
No, but I guess that they were tricking them, so maybe it was
I
accurate.
just assumed shenanigans, yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because I do think that particularly the stuff on the spaceship with the aliens, it did kind of look like stop motion. I feel like it was meant to look that way. They kind of designed it, I think. And that was probably the compromise, I would imagine, for Burton. Okay, I can't do stop motion, but let's at least make it look somewhat like stop motion. And I think they succeeded with that. So, and as I say, especially on the ship where you've got... I love the aliens milling about in their red pants. That destroys me. I love that. And then you've got the suiting up scene where they're going through the machine that's putting their suits on.
I want a machine that dresses me.
Yeah, me too.
That's so efficient. Think of how much time you would save cumulatively.
Well, yeah, I suppose you would like
10 minutes every day.
10 minutes takes you 10 minutes to put clothes on.
To get ready. I suppose that includes making a cup of tea. Never mind. Forget I said anything. I'm going to assume that the machine can also do that as well.
Make tea.
Make a brew, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the first thing that I would invent. The putting your clothes on thing would be the second thing.
Yeah, priorities, you know?
Yeah, and I think like, as I said, a lot of the stuff on the spaceship was probably some of my favourite stuff. Yeah.
When it's just the aliens themselves being chaotic.
I could have just followed them, I think, for 90 minutes. Yeah. Just walking around. Just like swapping heads around with dogs and things like that. And it's just fucking nuts. And I really respect it for that. I think it's a lot of fun. And it looks great. And even putting the Chihuahua head on Sarah Jessica Parker's body, you can see it's not real. You can see that it's animated, but it still looks good.
Yeah, it does.
It still is fun. And incidentally, did you know that dog was the dog of Tim Burton and Lisa Marie? They were dating at the time. Yeah, and it was actually their dog.
Did you know that I was... a fully grown, fully formed adult human when I realised that Lisa Marie is not, in fact, Lisa Marie Presley.
Did you know that I found out that Lisa Marie is not Lisa Marie Presley about 45 minutes ago?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad it wasn't just me that had made that assumption.
No, I was today years old.
Shit.
Yeah, I had no idea. But yeah, it was their dog, and I guess they just decided to save some money and use their own dog. I don't know. Or maybe they got... Do you know what? The dog probably got paid, so they probably got paid again. But Lisa Marie was not happy that they decapitated her dog, so...
Well, they didn't do it for real.
No.
I'm assuming. I think Peter would have a few things to say about that.
Peter?
Peter. The organisation, not Peter.
Oh, see, if you say Peter, all I'm thinking of is What We Do in the Shadows.
Peter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the animal people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah. What does it stand for? Pets.
Something about the ethical treatment of animals.
Yeah.
I forget what the P stands for. People against for the ethical not against the ethical treatment of animals. That would be ludicrous. That's the opposite message.
Yeah. No, don't work in marketing. No. What were we talking about?
The aliens
The
and the
aliens.
ship.
The aliens and ship. Yeah, that was outside of the Martin Short stuff. I think that's some of my favourite stuff.
Yeah, and I think the stuff you were just talking about with the like Sarah Jessica Parker's head on the Chihuahua body,
Yeah.
that's probably, I hadn't seen this film in maybe 10 years. And that is one of the first images in my mind when anybody talks about Mars attacks.
Right.
But
Okay.
I do really, really enjoy the design of the aliens themselves.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I just like how their big brainy heads inside the glass thing. It really works.
I get kind of Metaluna mutant vibes,
Oh,
which might be intentional. Have you seen This Island Earth?
those are all words that I'm not familiar with.
Okay. It was kind of a cult favorite sort of B-movie sci-fi.
Right.
But yeah, the creature design was absolutely superb.
Yeah. I guess they're basing it off of the cards.
Well, yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me if the cards themselves had taken inspiration from that kind of thing as well. But yeah, I mean, this whole film is sort of a total pastiche of 50s B-movie sci-fi anyway.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of inspiration. Like I believe the actual UFOs that they used were kind of inspired by Earth versus the Flying Saucers, which is a film I haven't seen, but I think from 1956, I believe.
I'm not familiar with any of those movies outside of, just film history and stuff and being aware that they exist. I've never seen any of those. I've never really had a desire to go and watch anything like that. I
don't know how much you would get out of them, to be honest. I think they're so campy and kitschy, and they have their place.
Yeah.
I think they're a lot of fun, but unless it's something that you maybe grew up watching and has a nostalgia factor attached, wouldn't necessarily be a very rewarding watch for someone like you. I don't know.
Okay. Someone like me.
Someone like you. Idiots. I don't know. Luddites.
When these aliens eventually do a full-blown invasion, they attack Vegas, and there's some fun scenes of them lasering a monument and people running away and them making it go the other way. So there was all of that stuff and destroying Vegas. Oh, by the way, are we just exclusively going to have movies with Vegas in every single season that we do?
Do you know what? I have notes about this.
All right.
So not only does it kind of tie back to Army of the Dead and Con Air, but it doubly ties back to Con Air in that a lot of money was saved because Tim Burton filmed the demolition of some of the buildings in Las Vegas. So
really,
once again, a production kind of piggybacked on something that was already happening.
I'm a big fan of destroying things in Vegas. I think we should carry on with that. Don't need to film it.
Just wipe it off the map quietly.
Yeah. I think everyone should go there once. We should shut down the entire Earth for a year. Everyone goes to Vegas once, and then once everyone's gone, we should just destroy
Evacuate and destroy.
Well, we can keep some people there still. Keep Siegfried and Roy there.
Take the tigers, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Take the animals.
Yeah, Peter would not allow us to destroy it if the tigers were there.
Peter.
Yeah, so the distraction stuff I really enjoyed. It again, it's a very specific choice style, the way it looks, and it looks like models, and a lot of it was, aside from the real buildings that you were talking about. But again, it works because that's what we're doing. We're referencing movies back in the day when they did look a bit shonky, and the industry was just kind of getting going with in terms of special effects and things like that, and paved the way for things to come. So it works, and I always enjoy seeing Vegas getting destroyed. So
maybe we'll have to have a whole season.
Yeah, Vegas Destruction season 4. Oh no, we can't.
No,
Season
we've
4's
locked in
locked
season
in.
4.
Yeah. I really enjoyed some of the kills in this.
Okay.
You mentioned Glenn Close earlier, and the first thing I thought of was seeing a dummy of Glenn Close getting squashed by a chandelier. That destroys me. I love seeing that. Nothing against Glenn Close. I think she's great, but it was just very funny. I really enjoyed the nihilistic humour of this movie.
Yeah, I can definitely see where they were going with the higher rating that they almost ended up with.
Yeah.
I think it would have worked. I like what it is. Don't get me wrong. I like what it is. It's cartoony. It's larger than life. But I think it also would have worked as a bit darker, kind of more schlocky, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a horror movie, but like tangential.
Yeah, I would say that this is kind of horror adjacent.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of Tim Burton movies are by their sort of nature, but I do think this is kind of a comedy horror-ish. But I agree. I would like to have seen this
Maybe
a bit darker,
edgier.
a bit edgier. Maybe we see some people explode and
Yeah.
just claret runs everywhere. That would be fun. Like a James Gunn. I'd love to see a James Gunn reboot of this movie,
Would you want a reboot or like a legacy sequel?
I think a sequel would work because then we get Martin Short back. We bring him back to life. We do a Martin Short is Martian Girl in a legacy sequel. Come on.
He's going to have to get sewn into that costume.
He'll do it. He would do it.
Also, speaking of Martin Short and the Martian Girl, why was 1996 the year of the sexy fish tank?
Explain.
You already brought up Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, yeah.
Weird.
That's right. Yeah, you mentioned that in the movie because him and Martian Girl look at each other and you sort of nudged me and went, oh, when did Romeo and Juliet come out? So, yeah, 96.
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it?
Strange parallel thinking. Very specific parallel thinking.
I wonder what came first. I wonder which one was released. They were clearly being made at the same time, so it's obviously a coincidence, unless someone had some inside knowledge on one of these sets. I imagine Mars Attacks was being made for much longer than Romeo and Juliet.
I would have thought so, yeah. But also the films have like nothing else in common, so I feel like it probably is just a coincidence.
I found a link though.
The fish tank.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, another person from the Pussy Patrol.
No. Are you getting the Pussy Posse and Paw Patrol mixed up?
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
That's monstrous.
They're two things I should not be mixing up.
They are indeed two things you shouldn't be mixing up.
I don't even know what Paw Patrol is. I've heard it. I've heard of it. I've heard people say the words Paw Patrol. So, yeah, kills again. Jack Nicholson again falls for the aliens stick at the end of the movie. He gives him a speech, which I enjoy his speech as well. I'm like, yeah, you're right. We should all work together. I enjoy this speech, Jack Nicholson.
I like his delivery.
Yeah, it's very earnest and it works, I think. But they're going for the handshake and then the hand comes off, kind of turns into a snake thing and stabs him through the heart and a little flag comes up with the Mars sign. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of the kills are really fun in this. But as you say, I would like to have seen it go much, much further than it did.
Yeah. How do you feel about the music?
Is it Elfman?
It is Elfman.
It's
yes.
the Elfman.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Will Ferrell. I outside of the woo and the sound effects samples, I don't really remember it, and I did have to look up to see if it was Elfman.
Okay.
Obviously he's a big Tim Burton collaborator, so.
Do you know what's wild? The fact that you had to look that up, because one of my notes is just, I think Danny Elfman might have one of the most identifiable soundtrack styles.
Yeah.
So that's curious that you weren't sure.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't know if I really noticed it in the movie, and that's maybe why. I can't think of any in my head now outside of the woo, as I just said. Yeah, so I don't really have many thoughts on the soundtrack. Was there, or the score, was there any soundtrack songs in this that were straight out of the 90s? Have we got anything?
I don't remember, no. And I don't know if that's on purpose because music is so integral to the plot of the film. So it's light on songs because when we do hear Slim Whitman, that becomes a pivotal plot motivator.
True. And I guess as well, if you do have popular songs from the time, then you're kind of putting a date on it again. So yeah, I forgot about the Slim Whitman stuff. I don't know how. That's horrible. I think my head exploded a bit when that music was on.
It was at a frequency that I think only dogs and dolphins could hear.
How and why did this estate of Whitman sign off on that? Because basically they're saying that music is so shit that it makes aliens' heads explode, right?
I don't think that's not the message I got.
Oh, that was the message I got.
Okay. I mean, it's good enough for Grandma, and she was genuinely one of my favourite characters.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun. I'd like to have had more of her in it, actually.
Yeah, her laughing at Congress getting decimated was one of my favourite moments.
Yeah, that's us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this may have been her last movie, you know.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I know we talked about the cast at the top of the show,
Yeah.
so we don't necessarily want to spend too much more time talking about that. But we didn't talk about Pam Grier.
No, we didn't. You're right, actually.
Do you know how she got the role?
No.
So basically, Tim Burton wanted her for that role, but she was supposed to fly to audition for him, but her dog was terminally ill at the time, which is very sad, obviously. But she was completely unwilling to leave her dog to fly for the audition, at which point Tim Burton was just like, you've got the role. Based on that, because she obviously played a woman that was unwilling to leave her kids.
Yeah.
So he was like, on the basis of that, you're it.
Okay.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. I guess this is just slightly before Jackie Brown. I think I became aware of Pam Grier in Jackie Brown. I know she had a whole
Really?
career like way before
Foxy
that.
Brown.
Yeah, of course. Like I'm aware of it now, but that's a whole thing that I had just no knowledge of
Okay.
in 1996. So actually, this is the first thing I would have seen.
Yeah.
But the first thing I knew the name Pam Grier was in Jackie Brown. But she was good in this.
She was memorable.
Yeah, she was memorable.
I think if you're done, I have one little fun anecdote before we can start wrapping up.
Okay.
And that is that Howard Stern, famous shock jock Howard Stern, made, I think it was a skit, I think it was a radio skit in 1982 called Slim Whitman versus the Midget Aliens from Mars. And when this film came out, he was just like, what the fuck, Burton? Like, that's my idea. And years later, Tim Burton was actually a guest on Howard Stern's show.
Yeah.
And they got to talking about it, at which point Howard Stern told him that he'd made this short. And Tim Burton's response was just, wow, you should have sued me.
Yeah. Did he not try?
No.
I mean, that's not a coincidence, right?
I have no idea.
There's
Maybe
no
it was
way.
Maybe it was something he'd been aware of many moons ago, and like it had sort of lodged itself in his brain, and it wasn't. I don't know. I think unintentional plagiarism can happen, right?
Yeah, and like parallel thinking is also a thing, but I think that's
it's so weirdly specific.
It's too specific, and definitely, whether consciously or subconsciously, it was in his brain.
Isn't that weird?
And yeah, fucking Howard Stern doesn't need to sue anybody. He's got all of the money.
Yeah.
Shock jock.
He's made it for life.
He made that movie, didn't he? Private Parts. So I'm sure he got paid some money for that. So yeah, I had a good time watching this. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the two Tim Burton movies that I will watch quite happily is this one and Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. I think this is a lot of fun. I don't think I particularly loved it at the time in 96. I'm not sure why, but the more time has gone on and the more I've seen it, the more appreciation I have for it. And maybe also I'm kind of comparing it to other Burton movies, which are not for me. So I'm like, oh, this is the one that I like.
Yeah, it is head and shoulders above some of his other work, I think.
Agreed, yeah. But it does have too many characters, I think.
Yes.
So I enjoy it. I don't think it's a perfect movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a 3.5 maybe or something for me. But it is very breezy. And I think if you said to me any Sunday afternoon, why don't we put on Mars Attacks and do something, and that can be on in the background, I'm quite happy to do that whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, just feels like a very Sunday afternoon movie for me. And yeah, I kind of enjoy it a bit more, I think, every time I see it.
Yeah, it's definitely one I enjoyed a lot when it came out. I remember loving it, and my thoughts are largely unchanged. I hadn't seen it in a very long time, and I was really, really pleased to see how well it held up.
Yeah, it does hold up well. Effects wise, the jokes still land for me. Plus Martin Short, what's not to like, really?
Now, I do have one little last nugget of information. Are you familiar with and I use this term very loosely, are you familiar with the comedian Jeff Dunham?
I've heard the name.
The puppet guy.
Oh, the puppet guy.
The puppet guy.
Right.
So...
Problematic puppets?
Yeah, problematic puppets. Yes, very much so.
I have heard
I
that.
hate him. He's deeply unfunny. But something that did tickle me is the fact that he used two of the eyes from the Mars Attacks alien in his dead terrorist puppet.
Right.
Which is called Ahmed.
Right.
And my brain tried to turn that into Ahmed.
Ahmed. Right, I see.
I wondered if that was intentional. But this film loses half a star for that because I hate him. I hate the man.
Well, I'm not really familiar with him outside of problematic puppets, as I said. And I think that's just because you told me about it. Yeah, so Mars Attacks, are we ack? I like the really aggressive ack. I liked ack. Like, just put it straight in your throat.
You kind of sound like a pterodactyl now.
How do you know what they sound like?
You
You can't say Jurassic Park.
Damn it. Land Before Time.
Okay, I'll accept that answer. I guess we should announce what we're doing for the next episode, which will be, can you believe it, the penultimate episode of season 3.
This has flown by.
It really has. I've got a feeling we're probably going to say that every season, but this one really has. I feel like we started this last week, this season. So next time we are covering Fire in the Sky.
On VHS.
Our first VHS. Are we going to watch? Are we going to watch the trailers on the VHS?
Yeah, of course.
Let's talk
part
about
of the experience.
And we can talk about the trailers.
Okay.
Yeah, the real life story of
Travis Walton.
Yeah, who was abducted by aliens.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can stay up to date with us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at @STH_pod, or support us on Patreon. Everything will be linked in the description.